When my grandfather was very young, he was always told that he was to find a job that he liked and to pursue it. So when he was around 15 years old, he called up his family physician and asked if he could come visit. When he was there, he saw crying and screaming children. When he was visiting the doctor, he was not allowed to be in the room with the patients. After he had visited, he decided that it was not the job for him. So then he called up his family dentist. When he was there, he observed that no one was crying or screaming. He was even allowed into the appointments with some of the patients. After that day, my grandfather fell in love with that profession. From that moment on, he planned he would do everything in his power that led him to becoming a dentist. When my grandpa was 18 years old, the government had a draft for the Vietnam War. The draft was for any man that was older than 18. This draft was allowing men to have a choice between going to college or dedicate their life to service. So instead of leaving for Vietnam, my grandpa went to the University of Michigan, one of the best dental school programs. When he graduated from college in 1965, he was assigned to go to the Philippines and took an 18-hour flight from New Jersey. In the Philippines, my grandfather had a housemaid that lived with them and made $25 a month. She cleaned the house, cooked all the meals, and washed all the clothes. On the base, they had fresh meat, but the housemaid was able to leave base and get fresh produce that was not provided to the men. She was able to eat their food because the Philippines was a very poor country. Life in the Philippines was not all that easy. When my grandpa was doing dental work on a patient, they were also having other work done on them by surgeons. Because there was not enough anesthesia, my grandfather would be working on the soldier's mouth while the doctor would be sewing up a man's stomach. Also, when he was there, he learned that the Philippines has super saturated air, which means that when you get out of the shower and are completely dry, in 5 minutes you'll be soaking wet again. When he was there, he was able to travel to India, Pakistan, Thailand, Hong Kong, and Japan. One day, my grandfather went to a party with his friends. When he was there, he met my grandmother Catherine, who was also originally from New Jersey. He was immediately intrigued by her mental stability and emotional compatibility. She was exactly what he was looking for in a wife and would do anything to have her. He especially liked her for her brains, which was exactly what my grandmother was looking for. My grandmother was in the Department of Defense for the U.S. government. She was a counselor for children of the families that were stationed in the Philippines. She was able to help the children that were having stress at home. She would sometimes hear stories about how their dad would leave early in the morning and then their mom would sometimes have an affair. They first met in October, started dating in November, and they were engaged by December. And they were finally married in February. They had no family that was able to fly there, but they had some of their friends. After the ceremony, they moved into a little house off base that they would live in until they came back to the United States. Unfortunately, they were never able to have a honeymoon because both of them were working. Grandfather and grandmother came home in 1967. They finally arrived in California. They bought a house, and 1 year later, they had my father. And then 3 years later, they bought another house and are still living there today. My grandfather was able to buy his own dental practice and retired in 2006. When my grandfather was leaving for the Philippines, he had no idea that when he would be coming back, he'd be coming back with the love of his life.